Hi Paula, hi gang, it's me, Marion, coming to you again from Detroit, Michigan, or I should say Warren, Michigan, right outside of Detroit. I'm doing this because everyone refers to their hand when they're talking about Michigan. Okay, what I'm going to be doing today is solving a family problem. I am the designated pie maker in my family, and that's great, but what happens is it causes a problem because everyone wants their own individual corner of the cobbler and they can't have it. But this time I'm going to make sure that everyone has their own individual corner cobbler. I'm going to be making individual corner cobblers, and I'm going to be filling this with my favorite cobbler mixture. But before we get to this part, let me kind of tell you how we're going to get here. One of the things that you'll need to have is pie dough. This pie dough comes in a sheet, and all you have to do is cut it. And for this particular recipe, I cut it so that it forms a long sheet, and then we put it into the pie pan. One part going in, and it's going to be filled with cobbler, and then the other part we're going to lift it and then put over the cobbler. Before we get to this, let's actually make our filling. What we want to start with is a very hearty peach, or a peach with some real flavor. And for this, I love to use Firestone peaches. I happen to think that they're the best peaches for a peach pie. Some people call it a Georgia peach. I'm not sure if that's true or not. What I like to put in first is my sugar. 1 cup of sugar, cane sugar. I think that is also the sweetest sugar. So 1 cup of sugar, you stir that in. The next ingredient that you're going to be utilizing is butter. We're going to be putting in butter. And this is 1/4 stick of butter. And just let that kind of simmer a little bit. Now, one of the main ingredients besides our peaches, we're going to be utilizing Philadelphia cream cheese, Kraft Philadelphia cream cheese. And the specific cream cheese we're going to be utilizing is the honey nut flavor. And what that does for a pie filling, it gives it a very sweet, nutty, and a very natural taste. And so I'm going to be putting in my cream cheese. And we're going to be using an 8-ounce container of the Philadelphia cream cheese. And what you want to do is just mix that. It's going to have a very nice consistency. But what you will notice is that the consistency is going to be a little watery. And so what we do to solve that problem is that, let's go ahead and mix it. It looks really good. Let's let that mix up a little bit. And if it runs down all over everything, that's even better. That lets you know it's going to be really good. We mix in a little what's called a roux. And what a roux is just a little flour and a little water. And just enough to help in the consistency so that it's a lot thicker. You don't need much of this because it's going to be cooking, and it also will thicken up as you bake it. But you want to just mix that. Now, the flavorings that you're going to put in your peach cobbler are a couple. We want to start with a very simple vanilla. That is a teaspoon of vanilla. We want to utilize a tablespoon of rum. And that is imitation rum. Of course, there are some people who would not put imitation rum, if you know what I mean. But for the sake of this pie, we're going to put in imitation rum. And then lastly, you see it's really coming along. Lastly, we're going to put in a little bit of nutmeg. And that is, again, a teaspoon. And I like a little bit more, so probably 1.5 teaspoons of nutmeg. Now, while I'm cooking this, I want to also start the second part of this, because on top of my individual pies, I should say individual cobblers, I'm going to be making a caramelized topping for it. And we're also going to be using the Philadelphia cream cheese honey nut flavor. I've used up all my Philadelphia. No, have more Philly here. Let's go ahead and get the fire started under this. And this has been sitting out. So what we want to use is probably about 4 tablespoons. And we're going to kind of let tablespoons of Philadelphia cream cheese and real butter, not margarine, real butter. And we're going to mix those together and just kind of cream that a little bit. Now into this mixture, you're going to be adding brown sugar. And that is a half a cup of brown sugar. And just let that cook down. While this is cooking, and let's turn this up a little bit more because we want to go ahead and let that caramelize. And you'll see it starts to turn a real caramely color. So while I have both of these cooking, I'm just going to stir that a little bit. This usually takes about 10 minutes in order to finish cooking this, but let me show you what this is going to look like when it's finished. These are your peaches and all of the ingredients. This is your caramel, and we're going to let that finish cooking. But what your peaches will look like is this, and you're going to notice the peaches, you're going to notice the honey nut Philadelphia cream cheese, you're going to see the nuts in there. Again, that adds a real beautiful flavor and texture. So we're going to go ahead and fill our pie crusts. And you want to fill them so that they don't run over in your stove. You want just enough in there to get almost to the top, but not over. It smells good and it looks so good. And then you want to put your tops on them. And again, it doesn't have to be fancy. You just want enough so that everyone gets the pie crust that they love. For some reason, people tend to love the pie crust and the filling, and it's just really good when it bakes up. So we're going to go ahead and put these in the oven. You want to preheat your oven to 350, and we also want to bake these at 350 for 20 minutes or until you notice, because everyone's oven is a little different, until they're nice and brown on the top. We're going to finish mixing up our honey nut caramel for our topping. Look at that consistency. And it smells so good. You can smell the nuts, you can smell the honey, and it makes a very beautiful dish. Okay, and we want to turn that off. And what I'd like to do with this, I've already pre-made some of our individualized peach cobblers, and we want to put that creamy mixture, honey nut mixture on top. You may want to keep 1 or 2 without the caramel because there are some people who may not want the caramel. And as far as your filling for your cobblers, I love peach cobbler filling, but you can use rhubarb filling, you can use apple filling, but the main thing is that you want to incorporate your Philadelphia cream cheese. And let's go ahead and plate this. Looks very, very delicious. Wow. This is the making of a wonderful holiday dish. Enjoy. I'm going to. Oh, okay. It's very good.